Back with me, we have Alexi, McCammond, and Tim Miller. So, guys, Alexi, you first. With Trump's pet comments, I mean, they seemed absurd, and they became a source of memes after the debate. But how has the fallout shown the dangers of these sinister lies? Alexi, are you muted, I think?
Oh,
there you
sorry.
Go. No, that's right. Just started back with the dangers of these lies. I mean, we're seeing the effect of them.
There have been school closures and other closures at City Hall because of bomb threats and other violent threats against the Haitian immigrants who live in Springfield, Ohio. I mean, there's been great reporting about, the benefits that those immigrants have brought to the community in Springfield, which, of course, is important for people to know because it's dangerous for them to only really have this association coming from the right and from these outlandish conspiracy theories. The other negative fallout you have is, of course, the little boy, the 11-year-old boy who died in a school bus accident that just so happened to be committed, by another oncoming driver who was a Haitian immigrant. The father of the little boy who died basically came out and said, I wish that he was killed by a 60-year-old white guy so that the right would stop bringing up the memory of the worst day of my life done in this terrible way. Yes, it's been tragic.
Yeah, that is just brutal. Tim, the mayor of Springfield, was honest that the influx of migrants into the community is a strain on public resources, but said that his community will work collaboratively. They're going to address the issue. He said, we need help and not hate. Why is this message not getting across to Donald Trump?
Because Donald Trump doesn't want to help anybody except himself. That's why. All these people are just pawns in this game for him. And, look, J.D. Vance has really given away the game on this. I mean, back in 2016, he sent out a tweet that basically said that he doesn't like Donald Trump because he makes people that he cares about, particularly immigrants, scared, and he finds that reprehensible. And he said in the same tweet that God wants better of us. And now here he is doing the same thing. He knows that there are negative ramifications to this hate mongering, to adding to spreading conspiracy theories. There are legitimate fears in these communities. Obviously, you mentioned the bomb threats and others, and it's totally unnecessary. And you could have a substantive conversation about the benefits and challenges associated with immigration. I mean, obviously there are challenges. There also are benefits. Springfield is growing, and it's a town that had been declining, and now there are more jobs, and that's why a lot of people are coming there. That's a sign of health. And so you have both these things at the same time, but it's challenging to be nuanced when you have somebody like Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, and when you've decided you just want to hate monger in order to get for political advantage rather than discussing policy solutions, because he's just not interested or capable of doing that.
I want to make the point that the Haitian immigrants, they're not there illegally. They are taking jobs in the local factories, jobs that were not able to be filled because of a labor shortage. So, I mean, all of this, to your point, it does benefit the community around it, paying taxes, for one. Let's go to Donald Trump, who was asked yesterday about his association with far-right activist Laura Loomer after she joined his entourage this week. She was at the debate, she was in the spin room, and then at a 9/11 event the next day. Here's that.
Laura's been a supporter of mine, just like a lot of people are supporters, and she's been a supporter of mine. She speaks very positively of the campaign.
What value do you feel that Laura Loomer brings to you, and has nobody told you about the conspiracy theories that she has promoted?
No, I don't know that much about it. No, I don't. I know she's a big fan of the campaign, but I really don't know. Well, she brings a spirit to us that a lot of people have. We have very spirited people. And in all fairness to her, she hates seeing what's happened to the country.
Alexi, should Trump be judged by the company he keeps?
Yes, absolutely. And in some ways, I think we talk a little too much about Laura Loomer and not enough about the fact that Donald Trump obviously knows who she is, obviously knows the conspiracy theories she's peddled, obviously knows that she's a 9/11 truther, obviously has seen the crazy racist tweets she wrote about the White House if Kamala Harris wins. He knows he's the most online person. He is bringing the most online conspiracy theories offline. He knows exactly who she is. So, yes, Donald Trump should absolutely be judged by the company he keeps. And it's very interesting that he would rather keep someone like Laura Loomer closer to him than his own VP nominee, J.D. Vance.
Hey, Tim, this election will very likely be decided on the margins. So do uncommitted voters see through Trump's lies, or does the drama of conspiracy theories just capture their attention?
You know, that's kind of a false dichotomy. I like a little bit of both, right? A lot of people see Trump exactly for who he is. There's a reason why he hasn't won an election since 2016. But again, going back to kind of this core group of voters that we're talking about, the people that haven't decided at this late date in September of 2024, they just are not that focused on politics, and they're getting this stuff through their social media feeds and mediated through other people. And so they do need to be educated about what a Donald Trump second term would look like, and why it'd be different than the first, and how crazy the people would be that are around him. And that's a job for the Democrats and the media, frankly, over the next couple months.
Okay, Tim Miller and Alexi McCammond. Love having you both on, so come see me again soon. Thank you.